My name is Hutch, I'm a gaming sex icon, and this is Chess with Grandmasters, a regular series that I've been doing primarily with a Grandmaster by the name of Tal Baron, Grandmaster from Tel Aviv, with an incredible grasp of the game. So we decided to do something a little bit different for this series, or for this session. I picked some old games that I had played throughout the last couple weeks on chess.com, and I asked him to analyze those games and give me feedback. Basically, more to help me get through the opening, because when you're an amateur chess player and you're looking to sort of graduate and make it to the next step, I really do think that getting past the openings and avoiding the pitfalls and traps that you can run into is probably about the most important thing that you can do. So he was nice enough to come on and give me some pointers. He analyzed 3 games. I'm going to roll them out one by one. And I got a lot out of this. I think you guys will too. Enjoy the video.
Your opponent played e4. You played e5, yeah?
Correct.
d4. E takes d4. So d4 isn't considered to be the most challenging opening because he gets his queen out early on and can lose a couple of tempi already. So I see you exploited it by playing knight c6. Straight away attacking the queen. Okay, he went queen e3, and I'll go quickly through the moves until I see a point where I feel like I need to make some remark. Yeah, I don't want to just explain all your moves.
If I could just say real quick, I remember when I was studying openings, queen going back to d1 was, I thought, the standard move in this spot.
In fact, queen e3 is the actual main move. This queen e3 is considered to be the most popular continuation. And actually, d6 is not the most precise. Normally, black plays knight f6, because then if white goes e5, then there's knight g4, and the queen and the pawn are attacked.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So
that's good to know.
This isn't good for them. Yeah, normally they go knight c3, and then black goes bishop b4, bishop d2, castles, and white castles long. And at this point, usually after rook e8, it becomes extremely sharp, but from the objective point of view, it should favor black. But
okay, all right.
It's sort of a gambit opening. Usually they give up the e4 pawn and try to fight for to have some attack going. So it's a good idea if you're not an expert on the subtleties, not to enter all the complications. In general, with gambits, it's better to decline them if you didn't study all the details.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, so d6. I actually heard Eric Hansen saying it in the blindfold game that you played against him. He was trying to gambit some pawns, and you avoided it straight away.
Yeah, my gut told me this feels like a trap, so I'm just going to avoid it altogether.
Yeah, so it was an invitation for a sharp and insane game, which is probably where you are more likely to make mistakes.
100%.
And even if you play against players your own level, it's likely because they usually know their way around this opening and have some experience with the nonsense involved. So bishop c4. So d6 basically prevents e5 after you develop the knight, so it's a good idea. Now you went knight f6. Okay, from the opening point of view, everything seems normal. And now suddenly your opponent decided it was a good idea to attack you, even though you didn't justify it in any way.
Is this where he grabs the f7 pawn?
Yeah, he took with the bishop on f7, and I think this is a very bad move in general. I remember growing up, many people played like this, and it's a good idea to prevent the opponent from castling, but not in the price of giving up a piece. Knight g5 check. I think you
would run into those kind of moves a lot I would run into them a lot when I would play in coffee shops against people that were used to like 5-minute time controls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I think like this guy knew that this game was going to be on the stream, because even though it's not necessarily the best move, it's definitely going to make my life harder because the position becomes a bit more complicated. So I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that this game will reach the stream.
Some may even call that prophylaxis, Tal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Against my well-being. So king g8, now queen b3 check, which would be almost a mate, if not for your d pawn. So I guess he was a little bit optimistic at this point, but fortunately you have d5. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe after knight g5 check, maybe it was more precise to go with the king to somewhere like f8.
I thought about G6.
G6 is a little bit exposed. We
Uh,
don't want to go
just a
up
little bit, yeah.
voluntarily, but I'm thinking maybe back to f8 could be a little bit safer with no checks involved. So I'm thinking about how we could decide between such moves. Generally, this is very concrete. There is no general. there isn't something that I can say that will be right for all positions where your opponent gives a piece
Yeah.
and starts to attack you. You just have to calculate. And a good idea is to notice his follow-up. So first I'll ask you if you saw queen b3 check in advance.
I did, yeah. And I saw the pawn push, and I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to think
That's-
about, it was either between G8 or G6, but after I picked G8, or before I picked G8, I saw that I had that pawn push to protect the checkmate there.
Yeah, so that's the key idea, and the fact that you saw it is making all the difference. So I think it's a good move, but you have to be aware that the pawn will be pinned, and it might be a risk afterwards if he goes knight c3, for example. Here, if you went knight c3, the pawn cannot move, and you cannot really protect it. So you have to play some concrete moves like knight d4 and so on. But if you foresee that you might be fine, then it's a good idea to go for it. I will mention that king g8 also had the advantage that if it were your move again, then you want to go h6 and king h7.
Yeah, I think that's what I eventually did.
Yeah, and reach safety. So
Yeah.
this is not bad at all. Queen b3 check, d5. He went castles. I think knight c3 would be a little bit more challenging. And he kind of didn't follow through with his attack. He kind of gave you a piece, and then he continued his development as if nothing happened.
Yeah, I was a
So
bit
he
surprised by
gave-
the castle there, yeah.
Yeah, I think now after you play h6, he really doesn't have anything left to do, because once the knight goes away, you go with the king to h7, and life is normal again, only you're a piece up.
So I guess the
So-
lesson in this game is don't attack prematurely. Especially, I think
Yeah.
this was like a 30-minute game too, or it might have been a 10-minute. Even with a 10-minute game, that's plenty of time to sit back and evaluate the situation and worm your
Yeah.
way out of it.
It's like the lesson is mainly from his point of view, because he did the main mistakes so far. I cannot point out any big mistakes that you made. So after h6, I think black is objectively winning already, and well, from his point of view, he should have played knight c3 on the previous move after d5. So
Yeah, that would have been
once
scary.
you have an attack, if you have an initiative and you're leading by development, then a good idea is to something I like to call striking the iron while it's hot. You don't want to let it cool down and then try to find an attacking move.
Yeah.
So yeah, so with the initiative, it has to happen instantly, or it will be gone as if it never existed. So after h6, let's just quickly go through the moves. He takes d5, which is another mistake, because now after queen d5, you're attacking, like you're threatening to exchange queens,
Yeah.
which will be in your favor, and the knight. I guess, does he have c4? I'm not sure I fully understand the position. I think he can play something like c4. Which he didn't. I see in the notation he played queen takes d5, but it seems like this would be the main chance for him to keep some complexity going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might have
So-
blundered actually, because in my mind I don't think I realized that his his dark squared bishop was guarding the knight on g5 there.
Yeah, so you cannot take it.
I think I would
And,
have had he not exchanged those queens. Oh.
Yeah, and okay, it's not really that good for him, but it is something like the last chance, so to speak, because after exchanging queens, it's already, I mean, from professional point of view, it's already without any hope. Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, someone in my stream is telling me that your stream can't hear me. So I don't know if that was intentional.
Maybe I
wouldn't blame you.
Something.
I get it.
Let me see if I can do something with it. Let me try.
Hawkman, thank you so much for using your Twitch Prime sub on me, pal. Appreciate it, buddy.
Okay, what if I press? Okay, I don't know if it makes a difference.
Can you guys do me a favor? Is the $25?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, I don't know if they can hear me. Can you guys tell me, is the $25 sub available? Like if you try and subscribe, does it give you the option to do the $10 sub and the $25 one? Moose Knuckle, thank you so much for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Appreciate it, buddy.
What's the problem? So it'll take a second to fix it.
So if you go into OBS.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. The desktop audio is gone. So let me fix it. I think I can do it on my own.
Yeah, if you go to settings,
I've been wrong before.
If you go to settings and then audio, it should pop up there.
Desktop audio device and then default. Okay, so let's see. So after c4, you miss this move in the game, yeah? The fact that the bishop protects the knight.
Yeah, I probably would have taken that, but I think he traded off the queens there.
Yeah. So just a moment. I'll connect the headphones again because I changed something earlier. Okay, so now people should hear you just fine.
Hello.
All right, so
Tal stream. Hello.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. So now after c4, just from objective point of view, I think that for you a move like knight d4 would make sense to hit his queen. So even knight a5 actually. Like I'm not too sure. One of these two moves to try and gain time before you move your own queen. You don't want it on the diagonal with your king. And then after it moves, you move your queen and you continue the game. And should be still very good for black, but with the queens on the board, it's definitely more challenging. So, okay, after queen d5, knight f3, it looks really nice for you. So let's focus on the technique part, okay? So let's assume that black is already winning. You have a piece for a pawn, and now see how we can treat this part of the game, yeah? Do you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so now after knight f3, I'll use the same method we always mentioned in the streams. What does he want? As far as I can imagine,
he just wants to develop his pieces, right? Get his bishop off.
Yeah, but no materialistic threat or direct threat that I can. I want to say that I can see, but that I can visualize. So bishop f5 feels like the logical developing move because you just bring another piece to the center and you're also hitting a pawn on c2. So it feels like a really good idea. And if he doesn't threaten anything, then the follow-up will be probably something like king f7 and putting your rooks in the open files in the center.
So king f7, because once the queens are off the board, it's better to get your king towards the center, right?
Exactly. It's already becoming a valuable piece in itself that you shouldn't necessarily protect. You can use it as if it's one of the strong pieces that you can utilize. So you want to bring it to the center, but still keep in mind that there are possibilities to attack your king if there are many pieces in the center as well. So it's just a general rule, but you have to use it with some common sense.
Yeah.
So bishop f5. Now he played knight bd2. I like the fact that he didn't take the pawn, even though it looks tempting. I'm not sure if he can punish you for it, but I like the idea of finishing the development first.
Yeah, that felt like it was stronger to me.
Yeah, and you don't risk anything. The pawn will still be there, and you will improve your position. So now king f7, as mentioned, you played king h7. He played c4. knight to db4. Obviously, you noticed his threat. You wanted to go to the most active square, as we talked in the streams. You want to move forward, this was a good idea.
I had your voice in the back of my head saying, "Go forward,
Yeah,
man.
baby,
Don't go backwards."
that's what I want to hear. So now a4. This kind of moves makes me suspect even more that he knew about this stream and he just wants to confuse me, because it will be much easier for me to follow the position if all the moves would make sense. And this move I cannot really make sense of. So I will probably forget the pawn is there later on.
I'm guessing he wants to lift his rook or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably wants rook a3, but doesn't strike me as the most straightforward way to develop it. I used to do it when I was like 6-7 years old. Probably when I just started to play chess, I wanted to develop the rooks like this until someone explained that it's not the way for the rooks to join the game.
Well, actually, maybe the reason why he did that is because if he didn't do that, if you just back it up one. So if I back it up one there. Now, if I hit him like on the next move, like let's say he does something inconsequential like that. If I hit him with that, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe he was...
I'm looking at the notation. So h3, knight c2, rook b1, yeah? Now knight d4 maybe, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he just didn't like the knight and the bishop kind of teaming up on his rook over there. So he just wanted to get it
Yeah. It's a good idea. And I think now you can play something like knight to d4. And he has to go back with the rook. And you kind of centralize your knight with tempo.
Yeah.
So it's probably... But this is why I would play something like a3. So here, from white's point of view, a3 is a good move, because now knight c2, rook a2, and he wants to maybe go b4 later and be a little bit active.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, if you guys are just trickling in, he's
b3.
Blindfolded giving this analysis right now. So
anyway, he will develop his rook at some point, but a3 and rook a2 is much more logical. So now rook a d8 is good. You want to develop to the open file, and this is the right rook, because had you put the other rook, you wouldn't have a place for the a8 rook.
Yeah.
So this is the right direction. Now he played h3, still no threat, and you're asking yourself which piece doesn't work, and probably the answer is
my h rook there.
Your h rook. I see in the notation that you played knight d3, but I mean, it is a good move, activating the knight, but just keep in mind in general that almost always, even if you improve your piece a lot with one move, if it doesn't gain material immediately, then it's not as good as bringing another piece, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to get that bishop off the board. At this point, I figured I'm a piece up, so let's just trade down.
But all the principles are the same even when you're a piece up, because bringing another rook, imagine right now the rook is not in the game, and after the move he will join the forces. Yeah. So you're bringing a full rook into the game, and knight d3 is not even bringing a knight; it's taking a knight and improves it a bit. So just from the, let's call it the energy management point of view, it would be it wouldn't maximize the effect of the move on the position. So unless, of course, the knight creates some direct threats and you gain material and so on. So knight d3 doesn't strike me as something that gain material, but it does attack the bish, so I'll forgive you for it. So,
I wanted to disrespect his bish with that move.
Yeah. That's true. So it's not a bad move, as mentioned. You can play rook e8 on the next move, but just keep in mind, I like development even at Grandmaster level. It's a good idea to be disciplined and follow the development principles strictly.
Okay.
So b3, knight takes c1. Seems, if you say A, then you might as well say B. Rook a c1, and now you played bishop g5. So
yeah, I'm just forcing the trades at this point. In my mind, I'm like, let's just trade it down.
So the same idea I mentioned earlier still is valid. I want to play rook e8, yeah?
Yeah.
And just to maybe even bishop f6 later. And the bishops are very active. I don't want to allow him to exchange the knight for the bishop. I don't care that I'm a piece up. The bishop is more valuable. It's also like doubling your pawns a little bit. So yeah, so bishop g5, I would consider a slight inaccuracy. but okay, it's not changing the evaluation too much. But still, rook e8 followed by bishop f6 will be far more damaging for him.
Okay.
So now he took, you took, knight f3. Okay, and we'll go through the rest of the game relatively faster because I feel like the main part is behind us.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much more time on this game. It was more just like
Mm-hmm.
getting out of that opening. Because
Yeah.
when people play e5, e4, e5, and then d4, I always
Mm-hmm.
that opening intimidates me for some reason.
Yeah,
Playing from the black end of it.
that's true. E4, e5, and then d4. It feels like they are trying to attack you, but remember that if they break the rules, then you should have some form of advantage there. So the fear is very rewarding.
Okay.
So
All right.
usually when you know all the basic principles and your opponent still somehow manage to pose some fear, it means they're doing probably something that you're not familiar with, which is usually good for you. So here, okay, I want to go through the moves relatively quickly. Let's see. So at least the viewers will get like the experience of how the game ended.
Sure.
And I'll try to follow. I'm not sure if I'll manage to do it quickly, but let's see. G4. So h takes g4, bishop takes g4, knight g5 check, king g6. It all makes a lot of sense. f4 protecting the knight. And now, okay, you played rook h5. I guess you want to double the rooks.
Yes.
But from my point of view, I feel like it's a good idea to just ask yourself again. I guess you did ask yourself which piece doesn't work, and you wanted to bring the d8 rook to the h file, yeah?
Yeah, I was just thinking about doubling up those rooks on the h file.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure I still see the position entirely, but a move I would consider is rook d2. And my idea is to play something like, let me put it on the board, rook d2, and maybe just play knight d4 later and try to activate your pieces. Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
So rook h5 in itself is not an active move. It's preparing an active move. So I feel like this is a little bit more energetic. But still, rook fe1, it seems to have worked decently in the game. You double the rooks, knight e4. I don't think he's attacking anything, so knight b4 looks logical. Now
Yeah.
rook c3.
Threatening the fork on those rooks there. He addressed that.
Yeah. You want to go knight d3. So he goes rook c3, rook h1 check, king f2, exchanging another piece, which is good for you. By the way, if anyone is watching and doesn't understand why exchanging is good for the side who is leading, just imagine, I don't know what sport is the most popular in the US.
Probably
but,
football. Probably football.
Let's say in football, imagine 2 players versus 1, as opposed to 10 players versus 9 in football.
Yes.
So 2 versus 1 is the same difference between the players, but it's a much bigger advantage. They can just pass the ball between each other and the guy will never catch them. And it's kind of similar in chess. When you have 2 pieces versus 1, the advantage is relatively much bigger. So yeah, now rook e8. And well, I really feel like I'm not seeing the entire board anymore, but it's a nice position to have, and you're attacking the knight on e4 if I'm not wrong.
This is true.
So now he plays rook e3, and I feel like he missed this. Yeah, knight c2 check. I see in the notation. So you're attacking the rook on e3 and the king on e1. And fortunately for me, just as I stop following everything, then the game is practically finished.
Game comes to a swift end. Yeah, we don't need to finish it out. It's pretty elementary after that.
We can just go through the moves without explaining.
All right.
I like the idea of the viewers getting a somewhat closure with the game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I'm without notation. Also in chess books, they do this. They let you see the last 10, 15 moves without any notation. So it's funny. I'm imagining the position. I think I can follow it. But okay, I think you're a rook and a bishop up, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so now you took and he decided it was enough. Okay,
No
so
mas.
overall a good game. And
So you're saying in that instance, it's better to bring more pieces into the fold rather than maybe grab one pawn of material or trade down or something like that. Bring the rook out. Don't leave the rook on the h square the whole game.
on the h square, well, in this particular case, you had an open file, so it was kind of justified. But the events that led to creating that open file were not precise. So in a way, if I could give you just one main advice out of this game, is that you want to follow the development rules very strictly. You want to invest one move in each piece, and you don't want to move another piece voluntarily until you've invested at least one move at all your pieces. Yeah?
Okay. All right. I'll try to remember that. I will remember that the next time I get on and start playing.
Yeah, and of course you can move twice if he is threatening you, but usually if they have no threats, you don't want to voluntarily move the same one. And sometimes, I mean, in a lot of the cases, they do punish you for it when you're not a piece up. So, okay, let's look at the second game.